Hello and welcome back to Table Talk on Cyrils Brettspiele with
Kathleen
and Nils.
Yeah.
And today we are talking about some of my favorite drinks in the winter. Hot cacao.
I like our new location.
Oh, yes. It looks a little bit like cozy in the winter, right?
Yeah, also known as my dining room. My living room. Welcome to my home.
It looks a little bit like we have prepared something for the winter.
Yeah.
Some winter special.
We want it to be nice and cozy for everyone.
Exactly. Let's talk about cacao, and I would say we're jumping right into the rules, and today it's Kathleen for you.
In Cacao, you're trying to get the most points in order to win the game, and there's several different avenues by which you can do it. But the main form of gameplay, what you do on your turn is you must place one of your individual tiles into this grid. Now, your tiles will never be next to each other. You may only place it when orthogonally it butts up against one of the main game tiles for the game. You can see here, there's the starting market of tiles, and then I set these tiles out just so you can see some of the examples for other tiles. When you place a tile, you immediately gain that benefit. So you can see here's a 1 meeple, you get 1 little Chocolatl that you put on your resource board. You would also get to be able the ability to sell 2 Chocolatl for 2 cacao for $2 each, which you would immediately turn in and get the money. Now here there's only 1, so you'd only get to use 1, so you wouldn't get to use the full benefit of that. And so then after you place, you then for this turn, the turn would end. Then later, when more tiles are added to the game, whenever you have 2 player tiles with 2 orthogonal sides on either, that's when you can take one of these 2 tiles from the market, place it, and then any player who has meeples facing that edge of that tile will get that benefit. So here, yellow would get 2 cacao, and then purple would get 2 cacao as well, even though it's not their turn. And so then the game would continue to be built out from there. When it comes, your individual tiles here, I set them out so you can see the distribution. You've got 4 tiles that have 2 on one side and then 1 on each side. You've got 2 tiles that have a 3 and then a 1 on each side. And then you have 4 tiles where there's 1 on each side. So you can see from this distribution, like how many times you'll be able to take different actions based on what's around you. Now when it comes to points, the points that you get from selling your cacao, the money that you get is equal to points at the end of the game. But in addition, there's also this water pathway. And by placing your tiles up against this one, like for example, if I had this tile up against this water space, my meeple here would move up 1, 2, 3 spaces. So you can see if you don't move at all, you start off with minus 10 points. But if you manage to take it to the end, that's worth 16 points. So you would add up here at the end of the game the number of points you have from your water as well as the points you have in money that you've collected along the end. And there's some other tiles that do some different things. For example, this is the sun disk. When you collect sun disks, you're able to, instead of adding one of your tiles to the grid, once the market's done, you're able to just overlap it and take actions again. But generally, and then there's also these temple tiles where, you know, whoever has the most meeples abutting it gets 6 points, and whoever has second most, they get 3 points. And especially like in a 2-player game, we saw a lot where there was a lot of just shifting and swings going back and forth. And so at the end of the game, Chocolat's not worth anything. You count up your money, you count out your water tiles, and then the winner is the winner of, whoever has the most is the winner of cacao.
Thanks so much, Kathleen, for the rules.
So welcome, Nils.
And yeah, let's jump right into it. You talked a lot of, so let's start me with components.
He doesn't want me to talk too much.
That's not true. I invited you always. So first of all, I like this cacao meeples. They are cute. Later on, but we are talking in a further edition about that. They are chocolate coming in, my favorite.
They could either, like, they almost look like little hand grenades or pine cones too. So you wonder if there was like another game that they recycled them from.
Well, we all.
Or they look like poop.
Well, we all know customized shaped meeples are totally top notch right now. And there's another game on the market with Cacao, and they only have punch boards, so I like that they have still wooden meeples.
Wooden pieces
So nothing wrong on the components from my side, nothing I have to criticize. I mean, honestly, the artwork of the money is not really beautiful,
right.
but okay.
The one thing I would like for the money is if it was different colors, just because it's all the same color when you're trying to just make change. It just would be a little bit helpful. I know it's kind of funny, especially coming from an American where our money is all the same colors, and you travel abroad and you're like, this is so helpful, but we don't do that here. But this would be beneficial, I think, for sure in this game. Yeah. And
I think one of the reasons is probably, it's not 100% clear in the rulebook, but money is not, in my opinion, common knowledge. So that's the reason for the same sizes, I guess. So you can hide your 10s a little bit or your 20s later on under the ones and disguise that you're in such a good shape with your money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying probably.
I think it'd be more helpful, ultimately.
What I always finding funny on this is they still use those Carcassonne meeples in so much games. So that is the typical Carcassonne meeple. I like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that the player board is round. You know, woo!
It's a village.
It is. I guess so. The one thing that's I guess a little bit weird is with the sun discs that they have here. When I first looked at it, I thought the sun discs were part of the scoring because of how they were aligned with the -1, the -4, the -10. So, not a big deal. But just something that I thought from a design standpoint was a little bit confusing.
Okay. I got that point.
Yeah, but that's one thing though, is I think as far as the game goes, symbolically, it's really easy to understand when you get to the huts and the expansion. Some of that isn't quite as...
Hold your horses down on the expansion.
I will hold on my horses down on the expansion. Never mind.
For the base game, I would say the critics... I like the replayability and the fun. So every time the market, depending on this one, is totally different.
Right.
So each game feels completely different. However, your choices are so simple with playing one of your cards down from your hand and probably bring in these tribe tiles, or even not, if you don't have the open slot for it. The replayability feels good, but sometimes for me there are some down times in the game where you're sitting there and choices are limited. So
well, and I only played this as a 2-player game, so we talked about the differences between a 2-player game and a 4-player game, because certainly, you know, you can see very clearly in a 2-player game the decisions that you make and how they can immediately benefit or, you know, hurt the other player. When it's a 3 or 4-player game, there's a lot more out of your control than with this. And again, in the expansion, there's a few things that are done, I think, to... there's a few things in the expansion that I think are done to add some needed strategy, because otherwise this will play, I think, just this on its own. It has replayability, it's pleasant, but I think this could easily wear itself out relatively quickly. Like, you wouldn't play this a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I don't know. I mean, with different groups, yes, because it's never really the same game like the last one before for me. But that's when I said, when I'm sitting down there around the table and with 4 players, for an example, you're simply waiting until the fate is falling into your...
I didn't, yes, it played differently a few times when, like, markets came out later or something like that, but generally speaking, the game pretty much plays the same every time. I mean, it seems like to me that it's on a pretty thin margin in terms of, you know, mistakes and victories, so you really have to make sure you optimize what you do on each turn as you're doing it. And I feel like because of the times we played, you beat me every time, and I think part of that was because you had previous experience, so you kind of knew what was in there, what was going to happen.
With your students, by the way.
Yeah, right, my students. But also, I think for me as well, though, there are definitely things that upon learning the game I could have done better to optimize, or I took a more like sort of short-term benefit instead of long-term. In this game, I think rewards that a little bit more.
I have have to add a little bit, when I played that a couple of times, sometimes never the water holes showed up until the far end of the game. So strategically, if you know that there are water holes coming in the late end game, and you still have your 3 meeple pieces on hand, probably you save that to get big points out of the lakes. Or when you know there's a market with 4 for selling goods, you hold down your cacao until that specific point. Yes, there is a little bit of advantage and a learning curve in it. However, I feel it plays really differently if, for an example, a lot of cacao coming out, the double cacao things coming out early in the game, then you don't have enough storage area for store them, and you know they will be surrounded immediately when they're coming onto the board because they are super good tiles. So for me, the replayability is good. However, especially in a 4-player game, it feels a little bit like everything is out of your personal control.
Right.
So it's more chaos.
Right.
So you have to wait until the fate comes to your turn and then maximize what it comes out into your turn.
Yeah.
In a 2-player game, you can really strategically plan ahead and see the market.
Yeah. I don't think it's heavy enough for someone wanting a really strategic game, but if you're wanting a game to play with, kids that are a little bit older, 8, 10 years old, I think the range of decision making that's available for them, I think this game would be really great.
Yes, I agree. It's for that market, so for families with kids 8, 9 plus ish.
Yeah.
It's great. If you really wanted a hardcore game, this is obviously not a hardcore game. So.
Yes, because when we're talking about the differences in decision making and everything like that, I agree with you. But that's the thing is when I was talking about sort of that razor thin margin, we're not really ultimately talking about that many interesting choices that you can make.
You know what? I've always figured out it's really interesting. The final scoring was always very close. So as you said, it's a really tiny margin to maximize your points. So you're always ending up with 60, 70 points. Probably plus minus 5 with the expansion a little bit more. Anyway,
you mentioned the expansion. Yeah, right.
No, I didn't. So let's go over to. Do you like it or not? Go over to your final judgment, Kathleen.
I probably won't buy it.
Oh, that surprises me.
Because I buy basically everything else.
Well, that makes it even more worse.
Yeah.
I thought you really enjoyed it.
No, I like it. I like tile games. I like sort of spatial placement games. There's a lot that I do like about it. It just was never really kind of exciting. There was never really any, for me, not a lot of tension. It played well. It was fine, but it's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Just delicious. Sometimes it's what you want, but that's about it.
I have a lot of German viewers. We don't eat peanut butter and jelly
Sorry.
sandwiches.
It's schnitzel without Jaeger sauce, or not Apfelstrudel because that's delicious.
Pommes without Schranke?
Yeah. It's
Pommes without Schranke is it?
Yeah. It's not sehr lecker. It's lecker. Not sehr lecker.
Okay. Yeah, for me the base game it's really good for what it is. It's a family game, it's a light game. I really like that the rules are super easy, so it's super easy to teach. The entrance level, you don't have to be a super experienced player to play it and have fun. But I would agree it's not outstanding once in a lifetime. For me it feels good that it's just from my personal opinion, it's had a gigantic replayability for me, just because the market, I've never had a game that feels like the other one before.
I will say that as far as this game goes, I would not play it again. I would play it again. Somebody would I don't hate it. So if someone said, hey, let's play this, sure, whatever. I don't really care, I'll wait for it to be over, whatever. But I do like the expansion. I think the expansion added some, not all, but some components that I think add to the game as far as giving you better choices, more control of your own destiny.
Alright. Thanks for watching. This was Table Talk with
Kathleen Mercury
and Nils from Cyrils Brettspiele. And next time, obviously, got a little tiny clue what we are talking about. Maybe. Anyway, let's talk about, and then you can add the word a couple of times. If
You said expansion too.
Oh, yeah, it's me too. Okay, see you. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Have a great time.